Hello, 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 it's Knits for Sanity and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for popping in. And if you've been here before, as always, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. So today I am doing what's called a WIP Chat, which is something I've not done. Oh, again, it's been for at least a month. WIP stands for Work in Progress. For me, that is working on a diamond painting that I've actually been working on and off since about mid-August of last year. But for you, you can grab your own work in progress, whether that is a crafting item or a chore, exercise, or any other activity that you can do while listening to me chat with you for a little while. And of course, while I am the one doing the talking, that does not mean that this needs to be a purely one-sided conversation. Definitely leave your comments below. I love hearing from all of you. And that brings me up to my very first brief topic today, which is I do read all of my comments. I do respond to all of my comments. But I have begun to notice an uptick again in comments that I just don't ever get. I don't understand how this works on YouTube, and I myself have had it where I've left comments on other people's videos and they never see them. They never get them. And in fact, when I go back and look to try and find my comment back, it's not there anymore. And these are friends of mine. I know that they are not deleting my comments, nothing like that. It's just for whatever reason with the YouTube algorithm and how technology is, it's like every few months or so, I notice this uptick again where people start complaining like, hey, I left you a comment, but you never answered my question. And it's because I haven't seen it. So definitely leave your comment. I do read all of them. It may take me a few days to reply to you, but please, please know that as long as I see it, I will read it and I will reply. All right. So today I actually want to start off with a tiny little completion reveal. A couple of days ago, I did an unboxing from the lovely people over at GBFKE, which is a budget company. And among those items was this really lovely mini special drill diamond painting. And when I showed it, I had a subscriber comment like, oh, wow, I really love that flower. I can't wait to see it finished. And I replied that actually it's on my to-do list because I was kind of eager to see what this looked like completed as well. Because it was a lot of drills and it looked kind of, I don't want to say disorganized mishmash, but it was a little bit harder to actually interpret what these drills would look like on this canvas in some ways. Anyway, last night was apparently the time when I decided I had to get it done. So I sat down, I completed it last night, and I actually really love these end results. As for quality and stuff, the canvas is plenty thick. It's not soft, it doesn't need to be, but the canvas is thick enough. The glue was really only over the areas that drills were being laid, which is also nice. I did seal it. The drills were kind of a mixed bag as far as quality goes. A couple of them were superior quality. For example, I do definitely remember that the brown drills down here were just excellent quality. Color and size consistency throughout all of them. They were lovely, but then others, that wasn't quite the case. Specifically the green ones. Size and color consistency wasn't there. So I'm not sure, quite often companies, they will get a new producer for something, but there's no sense in throwing out all of the old product that's still perfectly usable. So quite often, if you are in the process of switching over, you will get mixed things, especially in drills. And so I'm kind of wondering if that's what's going on here. Regardless, the quality was never so inferior as to A, make it impossible for me to complete the painting, and B, detract from the painting because the end result is truly stunning. I am actually really, really pleased with this. I think it looks lovely. I will say these teeny tiny little teardrop drills in here that make the petals of the daisy type flower, I do not enjoy. They are so tedious to put down. They are hard to get onto your canvas in exactly the right way, pointed the right direction, evenly spaced. They are a pain in the patukas. And I'm at a point in my life, I am like too busy. I have too much going on to devote the amount of time needed for perfection with that type of a drill. So there's a time like 20 years ago where I think I probably would have done that. And I think I would have actually gotten like a sense of satisfaction out of doing that. But now, as a mom with 4 busy kids, I just don't have the time for that anymore. But anyway, this is a really, really lovely end product. And I will, of course, link to this in my notes section. Thank you to GBFKE for letting me show this off. And yeah, I think it is quite lovely. As for this painting, this one, as I said, I have been working on and off since August last year. Things just kind of came to a head with how busy my life became having 4 kids. When all of those children begin to be involved in their own activities. And of course, we live in a rural location, which means even just a trip to the school is about 15 minutes one direction. So even if my kid is standing outside and ready to go, it's a 30-minute round trip just to and from the school, which it's not like a city 30-minute round trip where it's possible that, okay, yeah, it may take you 15, 20 minutes to get to the school, but then immediately afterward, you can drop them off for their karate lessons. And then you can drop your books off at the library. You can go to the grocery store to get your groceries. No, that it's not like that out here. You know, for me to do all of those types of things means, you know, I have to go to the school, and then like my son takes dance class 30 miles from the house. So that's another 45-minute drive. And, you know, the closest grocery store is still several miles away from where the schools are, and several miles away from our house. So, you know, it's not a city 15 minutes to the school, if that makes sense. And last year was the first year where it just really started to hit hard, where I had children involved in different activities and trying to orchestrate that. The logistics involved they became pretty intense. And as a result, there were several paintings I started last year and I just wasn't able to finish. So this year, my goal has been, other than starting and doing small projects, which I do a lot of those. If you know me, you already know that. But I really don't want to start any new large paintings until I get done with the 3 major ones I started last year. Or I'm willing to make a bargain with myself. 2 of the 3 that I started last year. Just because one of them is a very large painting and very, very confetti heavy. And I see myself having some issues with this AB drill getting my putty stuck on there, which happens. But I see myself reaching a point of burnout on that one that it might necessitate having to start a new canvas just to keep me going. So I have to at least finish 2 of the 3 larger canvases that I started last year before I may start a brand new canvas. So that is what I'm doing. This is from Dreamer Designs. This information is all in my notes below. You can check it out. I don't know that this painting is currently available on Dreamer Designs website. It does sell out quite quickly when it is available. But yeah, you can go look. So it's been a long time and I don't even know like really where to begin. What has been going on in my life is quite intense. It's always intense right now as you're starting together just because it's that busy. I will say that one major issue has been more or less resolved. So as some of you already know, This family and car trouble are synonymous. I don't know what it is, but we have the worst time with cars. And so my car, which is our family car, the transmission went kaput. And then it was just a series of like one nightmare after another. And it just kept getting more expensive. But getting a new car was never an option. First, we still owe on our car. And second, I don't know if you're aware, but the car market right now is not consumer friendly. Actually, the market for a lot of stuff right now is not actually consumer friendly. So yeah, no, that was just not an option for us. We had to fix this one. Well, the good news, finally, yes, for real, 2 weeks from tomorrow in the past. So 2 weeks ago, as of tomorrow, I picked up my car. It is running. Everyone knock on wood for me. We paid buku bucks to put a 3-year warranty on the transmission. Just because it's one of those where it's like, I know us, if we didn't, we would have issues as soon as the 1-year warranty wore off. But now this way we are guaranteed to at least have a working transmission until we get rid of the vehicle. But you know, it's running. I am happy to have my car back. It's not a perfect vehicle by any stretch. Yes. But anyway, we have a running family car again. So I am thrilled. And like I said, everybody knock on wood that this will remain and nothing else will suddenly go catastrophically wrong, because we have $0 left to try and handle it. Yeah. I mean, the car is an absolute necessity for us. We spent 2 months or just over 2 months not having it. Like, it reached the point where it was completely undrivable. And that was really hard. We were able to borrow my father-in-law's car, which was really, really nice. But it really only seats 4, not 6. I mean, it's been a real hassle. It's been hard. It was long and difficult. And I just want to reach the state of boring with vehicles. That's all that I want. I'm fine with not having the latest in technology car. I just want one that runs and continues to run to get us from point A to point B. That's what I want. One day, maybe a miracle will happen and we can afford to buy a brand new car that will come with a great warranty. And then, we'll be able to sell that vehicle while it still has a little bit of value left to put toward a down payment of a new car. One day, maybe the strangest of things will happen and we will reach a level of financial security that will allow us to be able to do that. My husband says that just forget it. It's never going to happen. I think he's just given up. And I can't say that I blame him. History has proven that, we're never going to reach financial stability. Are you kidding me? As he says, we're never going to have nice things. So just forget about it. He's probably right. But boy, it would be nice to have nice things. And by nice things, I just mean working cars. Like my idea of nice things is pretty minor, I think, for a lot of people in our country when they consider nice things. I'm not even asking for family vacations, as wonderful as what those would be. I'm not even asking for that. I just want a working car. I would love to have 2 working bathrooms because we don't have that either. And we've not had that in 12 and a half years. Just those kinds of things. That's all that I want out of life, is that, which for the United States may seem like pretty minor requests, but for many, many other parts of the world, that really is luxury living. So I try to remind myself of that too, that there is somebody who always has it worse. And I try and keep a decent perspective on things and remind myself that in many ways I am very, very blessed. And so, yeah, I'm blessed. Just sometimes I'd like to feel a little more secure too. I got some putty stuck on here. So I am back to using putty. I was using it's made by Patty Wax, but it's not their regular Patty Wax. I'm not a huge fan of their regular Patty Wax, if I'm being really honest. But probably about 6 weeks ago, I came across a sample that they had sent me of their extra sticky wax. And they had said, this is for single placing only. Don't use this as a multi-placer. I loved it. And I will be honest with you, I loved it as a multi-placer. Love that wax. That's the Patty Wax Extra Sticky, I think is what it's called. But because my life is just, chaos, I lost it. I mean, it was just a tiny little sample, it wasn't big, but I lost it. Like one day I came to sit down and start diamond painting again, and I couldn't find it back. I'm like, where is that little sample? It was in just a little Ziploc bag. And I'm looking all over, and I'm looking on the floor, and I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. So I went and I tried to use the regular Patty Wax again, and nope, I still don't care for it. It's just, I know it works great for some people. I mean, a couple of years ago, Patty Wax was all the rage. Since then, more and more people have gotten in on making waxes and putties and whatnot for your drill pins. But at that time, it was really new and innovative. But it's just not for me. I just don't like it. But that extra sticky stuff, amazing. So then I went on their website, and I want to buy it how I got it as a sample, which is just a little thing of wax. It's in like the shape of like a French bulldog maybe, or maybe it's a fawn. And it's just this little piece like this. That's how I want to buy it. Or I would even take, like one of their bricks of it. But the only way you can get it is it has to come in these container type things, which for, if you're loading a single placer, I think it would work great. But I like using it for my multi-placer, and these containers, they're all little. And even though I only ever use a 4-placer, I'm real boring. I just use a single placer and a 4-placer. That's all I use. So even though I only use the 4-placer, trying to get that out of these little containers, I think would be very difficult, if not impossible, without knowing exactly the size of these. So I'm just kind of disappointed. And I'm thinking maybe I need to write Distracted by Diamonds / Patty Wax and ask, is it possible to just buy a couple of those like sample pieces? Like, do you still make those? Can I get those? Because that's what I want. That's what I like using. So anyway, all of that to say that I'm back to putty, which is fine. I'm using Mary Mud right now. Mary has been on maternity leave. To be honest with you, I'm not sure when or if she will be back into the game of production anytime soon. We'll see. I say that because I don't ever want to put like any pressure on her. Motherhood is a huge job. Brand new motherhood is an especially huge job. And it's something that she's wanted and waited for so long. Do that job first and foremost for as long as what she is able. Yeah, just make that your focus. Now, if and when the time comes that she either needs to or wants to dive back in and start producing putty and whatnot again, that's awesome too. You know, that's great. But for right now, I don't want her to feel any kind of pressure that she needs to jump back into this capitalist high stakes environment, you know. I want her to be able to enjoy what she's doing and yeah, be happy being a mom and enjoying her little one. But I am using some of her, actually it's one of my absolute favorites. It's called Spring Rain, and it smells so good. Oh, by the way, happy Eclipse Day. Yes, today is actually the day of the eclipse. By the time, of course, you watch this, the eclipse will be done and over. But I live not actually too terribly far from the point of totality, and I know a lot of people who are right there now, somewhere in the country along that line of totality. A lot of people. And I did have a friend who, I think she still drove down and had asked if I wanted to go with, but it was not going to work. With my husband having to work out of town today, and the kids' activities, including my oldest had PSATs today, which she absolutely has to take in order to take her college classes next year. It just was not an option for us. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be really, really cool to have experienced something like that, especially, you know, there's a chance that I will never have this kind of an opportunity again. But the last one too happened when my kids were quite little. That was back in like when the days felt more normal in some ways. My husband worked outside of the home and my kids were really little and I was just a normal stay-at-home mom. And I remember then too, I don't know, it would be really cool, but it was never anything that I was willing to like completely rearrange my life around to make happen. And I remember the kids that I did have at home at that point, I can't remember if I had 2 at home. What year was that last eclipse? I can't remember. But I remember, you know, it happened during nap time. And I remember that it was like, I noticed that it was getting darker outside and everything. And I remember I did go outside and I'm not look at the sun. Don't look at the sun, but, you know, gazing around and thinking this is kind of cool. And it brought back memories from when I was in 6th grade and there was a partial eclipse at that point. And my mom actually picked me up from school because school wasn't going to do anything with it. And she took us home and we had our homemade viewfinders, you know, with the little like pinhole in the cereal box thing. So you can kind of observe the eclipse without having to look at the sun. I don't know. It was neat. And it felt like that was enough for me. So while it would have been really cool to have been able to go south, to have observed it in totality, I'm okay with being here. And this time it actually will get pretty dark here because I live where it'll be about 92-93% totality. And that's several degrees more than what it was the last eclipse. and several degrees more than what it was when I was in the 6th grade. I'd have to go back and like look through different charts and stuff. But now that we live in this current day of age with technology, I'm sure I could very easily get all that information. But I'm quite certain the 93-ish% is the most totality that we can hope to see. And then actually, if I could live to be something like 136 years old, I was looking at a map that shows all of the upcoming eclipses, and one over 100 years from now, so I guess I'd have to live to be over 136, would actually like cross right over where I currently live. So I thought, oh, well, what a bummer. I was born too soon. I mean, not really, just interesting, just very, very interesting. It's like, oh, there is going to be one like right here in the future. Oh, darn it. I'm going to miss that one. So when I get done with my video here, I'll probably head outside and try and check it out as much as I can. And like I said, I feel like that's enough for me. It would have been cool to have gone down south, but like my friend who's going, she just hopped in the car this morning and drove south and is going to like sit on the side of the road somewhere to watch the eclipse with so many other people. I mean, so many other people. And I don't like crowds. I don't like the idea of having to compete for road space. It's just not something I'm willing to do, you know, deal with potentially crazy people who are all there just to experience this eclipse. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not saying that if you went to go see it, you're a crazy person. That's not what I'm saying. I mean like the actual crazy people who develop like these weird beliefs around it, and then they're willing to do like exceptionally rude things to make sure that, you know, they have the ability to experience it the best. And if that means cutting you off and driving you into a ditch, so be it. Like, I mean, like the actual crazy people. For those of you who it was possible for you to go and experience it, that's awesome. Like I said, if it was something that I wouldn't have to completely rearrange my life for, I would have done it. I would have done it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. But it was too difficult. And it's not like one of those once in a lifetime, like I have to do this once in my lifetime and this is my opportunity. I've never felt that way. So yeah. So anyway, but once in a lifetime opportunities do exist. People do have their bucket list items. And I am really happy to report that daughter number 2 has now fulfilled one of those bucket list items. I am going to go get something to drink and then I'll be right back. I mean, you're not going to miss me, but for some reason I still feel the need to tell you like, oh yeah, I'm going to get up and go get something to drink, and I might use the bathroom too while I'm up. I don't know. I might have to let the dog out, but yeah, I'll be right back. I am back. Again, not that you missed me, but yeah, I came back. Oh, gall darn it all. Boy, howdy. Oh, here it is. Phew. Okay. So yes, some of you, if you've been listening, I believe it was my last WIP Chat, which was a little over a month ago. I talked about taking my daughter to the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships, which I know. Believe me, that is not generally considered to be like a bucket list item for most people, and certainly probably not very many 14, 8th grade girls. But for my daughter, it was a bucket list item. And this year in particular, she really wanted to be able to go. It was her favorite college wrestler's final year of eligibility. And for a while during the summer, I thought it looked like, yes, this is an actual possibility. I think I might be able to take her. And then this whole job situation, which has been a real challenge, that did not at all work out the way that I was led to believe it would. So then it became, no, I'm not going to be able to take her. And I'm exceedingly sad about that, particularly when, she had asked me at the start of this past college wrestling season, we aren't going to be able to go to that, are we? And I had to tell her, no, I'm sorry, honey. I had really, really been hoping to take you, but it's just not going to happen. Shortly before Thanksgiving, getting the email about how to get tickets within the University of Michigan section, which is my daughter's college team of choice. And sitting with that information for a couple of days and kind of saying, you know what? Screw it. I am going to do this. I'm going to find a way to make this work for my kid. I want this for her. I've wanted to do this for her for at least the last 2 years. No, we're going to make it happen. So I busted butt. I sold all of my best hand knits to be able to afford the tickets. And I thought, as long as I can afford the tickets, the rest, one way or another, it's going to happen. It's going to come about. And I had points for the hotel. So essentially I had at least one night free for the hotel. So, I went ahead. We did it. And then, of course, immediately after that, pretty much, it's that's when we knew we really had a real problem with my car. And, so it's everything kind of then started to fall apart. But by then it was too late, because once you commit to buying those tickets, if you are selected, you've purchased them. So, it was too late. I was getting those tickets, and we were, the tickets were coming. I'm trying to find, here it is. And there continued to be similar type issues that kept cropping up the entire time leading up to when we left, all the way up to less than 24 hours before we had to leave the area. So I always thought that we'd probably rent a car to get down there, just because, my car isn't exactly new and has a significant number of miles, but I also was aware that my car was having some issues, by that point. And so I certainly didn't want to risk adding that many miles. It was in Kansas City, Missouri. But then my car was completely kaput by mid-ish January, and we could not, I thought maybe we'd get it fixed in time, but then, because that was a whole other issue that I've never really gone into it, and you don't need to know it all, because it's excruciating, and honestly, it's boring for most people. But no, the car was in no way going to be ready by the time that we would have had to have left. So, okay, we have to rent a car. So I rented a car. Now, I guess call me foolish for not knowing this, apparently. I had a reservation, and I ended up doing something that I normally don't do, and that is I went through one of these third-party places, so Orbit, Priceline, something like that. I'm not going to tell you which company specifically, to get the rental, just because I could save like a couple $100. And given everything that was going on with us and the car and other financial problems that needed our attention, that couple $100 meant a lot. So I went through that. They took my money. Like, as far as I was concerned, I had already paid for this rental. So the day before my husband drops me off to get the rental car, I am not thinking there's going to be any problem. She finds my reservation in the system without issue. And then she's like, so I just need a credit card. And I pull out my credit debit card, which, I'm from an age where when they came out, everyone was telling you that your debit card is essentially like a credit card and that credit cards are bad. Everyone get rid of your credit cards. Nobody should have any credit cards. My husband and I don't have any credit cards. And I've rented cars before not having a credit card. And she tells me, no, like an actual credit card. And I said, she says, no, that's a debit card. And I said, but I don't have a quote unquote real credit card. And then I'm told that they can't give me a vehicle. I'm supposed to leave in 15 hours or whatever. And I thought I had a reservation. The money has been taken out of my account. I have paid for this car for a week. And now I'm being told that, nope, we cannot give you a vehicle. Like I said, perhaps call me stupid, but renting cars is not something that I've had to do on the regular. And I asked about that. I said, I have rented cars in the past and not had issue. And apparently, your plane ticket will suffice as like a credit card voucher, because that's when I've rented cars, is I've flown in somewhere and have been able to rent a car. And apparently it was my plane ticket that granted me access. I didn't have a plane ticket this time, obviously. So I was beside myself. Just beside myself. I'm thinking, there's just no way. There's no way this can be happening, right? Like, I've paid for this rental. I'm leaving really early tomorrow morning. Like, this is my child's dream. I've already paid for the hotel and I've paid for the tickets. And yes, I've paid for this rental. And then I contact, the third party company to discuss this problem with them. And I learned that there's nothing they can do to help me. They're not going to give me my money back because it was not refundable. And I said, okay, but nowhere is it like really explicitly clear that a credit debit card is not the same as your credit card. And, she's telling me, well, we did say that you had to have a credit card and, this like important information section. And I wrote back and I said, no, like you don't understand. People are so used to being told your debit card can work like a credit card, that even if I read, make sure you have a credit card, I'm thinking I've paid for this already using a credit card, right? I was livid. But in the meantime, that's almost the least of my concerns. My primary concern is I need to get to Kansas City with my kid. I need a vehicle. And so I'm thinking, who can I possibly call that can drive out here and rent a car for me? And there's only one person, and that was my father-in-law. And so I had to call him, hoping he would be at home and not working. He still works full-time as a pediatrician at the hospital, local to him. And he was home. He was available. He was able to come out. And we went to a different car rental agency. to rent from them because I wanted nothing to do with the original company that I had to rent from. And I talked to them. I mean, I was a little bit curt, but I tried to make it very clear. I'm not angry with you. This is, your policy, and I understand that. But I don't want to rent from you, largely in part because I don't want my name to potentially show up anywhere on the system as having gotten a car and driven it from you. Just thinking the only way that I can even hope to get a refund is I need to prove conclusively that I never drove away with a car from this company. And she's like, okay, that's fine. So my father and I, we went down to a different place, and we were able to rent a vehicle. I feel terrible. I had originally ordered, a small economy car because it's just my daughter and me. It was the cheapest to rent. And I'm thinking, gas. I don't want a gas guzzler. I want something that's going to get me 35 miles to the gallon, easy peasy. Like, yeah, that would be great. Suddenly we were in a minivan, which my daughter loved because she was kind of disgusted to learn that we'd be traveling in just a tiny little car. So she went from thinking, oh, I'm going to have this teeny tiny little back seat or front seat up my mom, to suddenly, oh my word, I have so much room in the back. So she was thrilled, but it was expensive. It ended up costing my father-in-law about twice as much money as what my original rental should have been. And I felt terrible. I felt terrible for so many reasons. I felt like, how could I be such an idiot that I missed this? How is it that as supposedly this full-grown adult with teenage children, I now have to still call on a parent to literally rescue me? I just felt so awful, and I still feel awful that I made him have to drive out there and do this rental for me. Obviously, of course, I offered to pay him back, and he said no. Just consider this, an ongoing gift from his late wife, my mother-in-law, who passed away over 4 years ago now. And said, just focus on trying to get your money back from your rental. So he was so kind and gracious. I am almost going to start to cry about it now, just especially because he had some other things going on that I was kind of aware of, but I wasn't fully aware of. But then seeing him, I can't really get, but I knew that he had stuff going on in his life too. So it was huge. And my daughter and I, we had a car. We left shortly, about 6 a.m. the next morning. It was an easy drive down there. My daughter, I had warned her. I said, now, Illinois is really boring. Oh, I forgot some of that one. Illinois is really, really, really boring. Like, you can close your eyes, open them up 20 miles later and swear that you've not traveled any distance at all. And I guess she didn't really believe me till we drove through it. And now she kind of hates Illinois. Like, at first, of course, you're coming in and you're on the outskirts of Chicago. And she wasn't real pleased with that because she did not like all of the semi-trucks. And you do feel pretty, you can feel pretty clogged by all of the semi-trucks, especially daytime travel. It's, you're just surrounded by all these semis, so you can't see. And yeah, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, particularly for someone like my daughter who's never experienced that before. So she was not real keen on that. But then we got out of the Chicago area. And then it was just cornfield after cornfield after cornfield with, a dugout pond for the runoff. And then another dugout pond for the runoff. And then another barn that looks like every other barn that you've seen for the last 150 miles. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Illinois either. I will say this time driving through Illinois, it was a slightly different picture than all the other times that I've driven through Illinois. This time, The fields were not planted yet, so I was not looking at just row after row after row of corn. You know, I had a longer sight this time. You know, I could see much further because, of course, it's very, very flat. So I guess that was different than the other times that I've had to drive through Illinois. But anyway, it was a really easy drive. We got down there like late afternoon, Central Time already. Because, of course, we gain an hour going that way. And then the event itself was just phenomenal. My daughter had the time of her life. I mean, it was so worth it. She had the best time. And part of the reason why I know she had the best time is there were some of the same people sitting around us the whole time. Other people who got tickets through U of M. And, you know, by Saturday, they're saying, so we'll see you next year. And, you know, my poor daughter gets this super sad face as she looks at them and she says, oh, I won't be able to do this again for a very, very long time. Which, you know, mom heartstrings feel bad. It's like, oh, you know, honey, I wish so much that I could take you again. I wish this could become an annual thing for us. That would be spectacular. Honey, we don't live in that kind of a family. We do not have that ability. And she knows that. So it's not, she wasn't trying to make me feel bad. She wasn't, nothing like that at all. It was a very genuine, I have loved this so much that it makes me so sad to know my experience is almost done and I'm not going to be able to do it again for potentially a very long time. And that's even after her favorite wrestler just, I feel bad for him. It was not his weekend, which when that was his last ever hurrah for college wrestling, that's really not what you want. He ended up finishing even before the blood round, which is Friday night, which is a really intense night. I mean, wow, the energy in that arena was quite something. He actually was out already by Friday morning, which was a huge bummer. I feel so bad for him. You know, my heart just feels so heavy for him. He's been All-American 2 times before. He's been an NCAA qualifier several times. You know, there was reason to be very hopeful that he would be All-American again this year. But, you know, that's just not how things went for him. And it stinks, but it is what it is. And there's still so much that he can be very proud of with his college wrestling career. And I think my daughter definitely recognized that too. So even though she was really disappointed and sad for him, in a way, I almost wonder if it worked out okay that he did not finish as well as what, of course, he wanted, as well as my daughter, but for her, because then she gets quite wrapped up and she gets really anxious about some of these wrestlers sometimes. So she was able to, I think, enjoy it more after that. I mean, not that she didn't still get really anxious, especially one particular wrestler and particularly one specific bout, which she got very opinionated about. But you know what? The whole arena got very opinionated about. But I think it kind of in a way helped her to be able to enjoy it more. And then she didn't have to worry about her favorite anymore. Again, not that that would have been the ideal. The others still would have been obviously much sweeter for her, but also most definitely for him. But yeah, it was just the most remarkable experience. And to be fair, I loved it. I had a great time. I have mentioned before, you know, wrestling is definitely not something that I ever thought I would enjoy in my life. And it's very, very odd to say that one of the greatest gifts one of my kids ever gave me was this hobby of enjoying wrestling. But it's true. And I did. I had the best time. Like if we lived in a family that had the financial means, yes, this would be something that I would do every single year with my daughter. While also having things that I do with all of my other kids every single year. But that not only could we not afford just to do it with one kid, but to have to spread that out then and do that with 4 children, yeah, that's not happening. Although each kid is different. Like my oldest, for her, the idea of going away for 4 or 5 days would be a nightmare. She does not like having to leave the house. Part of it is I also think she associates having to be gone from home for several days with surgeries, which admittedly, those are not the pleasant ways with which to leave your home and surroundings. There are definitely better ways to do it. But she likes being home. She does not like hotels. Daughter number 3 is more individual little times together spent doing stuff. I think she would be less interested in doing a several day trip together. Instead, it would be, let's do this event and then this event, like little individual singular things. My son, I think, would be more like my middle daughter, where he would love, you know, a several day long trip to see like this annual event, much like the daughter I took to the NCAAs. There were a lot of firsts for my daughter on this trip. It was the first time she ever rode public transportation. Actually, I don't know how many firsts there really were, come to think of it, but definitely first time riding public transportation. And she was so funny. Like I forget. I mean, I grew up in a suburb, so not a city. So like public transportation was not a normal thing for me growing up. But as a young adult in college, and then even in my own travels as an adult, it's something that obviously I have now done many times over. I don't really think anything of it anymore. But for my daughter, she was like scared. Like, what do you mean? This trolley pulls up and we just all get on it? Like, what? And Mom, there's nowhere to sit down. You mean I just stand here and I hold on to this thing and I like, there are no seat belts. Like, so that was really cute. She does not do well with stairs, and that's just because of her moderate to severe dyspraxia. Stairs can be very difficult for her to maneuver. And the way it was held at the T-Mobile Center. So if you've been there, then you are already familiar with how it's set up. But some stadiums work, I might have to like try and show it with my hands. So some stadiums work like everybody has to go up a set of stairs and you walk in on one main level, right? And then you either go down to your seat or you turn and you go up to your seat. But there's like a shared entrance point, okay? That's how some stadiums work. The T-Mobile Center, oh, no. You go up a little flight of stairs, you walk in, and then you walk down to your seat if you're on the lower level. If you are on the upper level, you have to walk and you take an escalator. That is admittedly a very tall escalator. It is a very long and very high escalator. My daughter is terrified of escalators, and I always forget just how much she's terrified of escalators until I hop on it And I look back and she's still standing at the bottom, unable to get on, just frozen in fear. And a group of strangers now come around my daughter and help coax her back on. And so my daughter had tried escalators for several days. And I'll tell you, by the end, she got good at it. Like, she was never comfortable. Don't get me wrong. She's never going to, like, ever say, ooh, an escalator, and be excited to have to use an escalator. But just to show how confident she was when we were leaving the arena for the very last time, there is a short escalator that you take when you first get in that takes you up like to that main level if you have lower level seating. And that one, I don't know that we ever really use it. Well, no, we did use it a couple times, just depended on the stream of people. But typically we just took the stairs. But when we were leaving the arena for the last time, there was plenty of room. We actually left like about early. And, oh, the mail person is here. But so there's plenty of space. And I went to take the stairs down. And she says, oh, I'm going to take the escalator. Just to prove that she can do it. So that was really cool. All right, I need to go. Again, the mail lady's here. Just a minute. So I'm back. You can probably hear my dog snorting in the background. You know, I let him out there so he could go now chase after. It was actually the UPS man. It was not the mail lady. I mean, this is after, of course, I've seen the UPS truck go all the way down our driveway. So it's, nobody's out there anymore, but Alfie needs to go out and do his neurotic protective duty. So, yeah. And then he has to attack the large box that came that incidentally holds his dog food in it. Anyway. So yes, my daughter just had the time of her life. But when I asked her, so the last day when we're leaving town, she and her sisters, they have this big thing about wanting to eat at a Waffle House. They watched a YouTube video about Waffle Houses, I guess. And so for the past couple of years or so, it's been this big thing about eating at a Waffle House. And of course, we don't live near any Waffle Houses, being in Michigan. Well, the hotel we were staying at right next door was a Waffle House. And my daughter was so excited. And so I told her on our way out of town, we can eat at Waffle House. And so we did. On our last morning on our way out of town, we ate at Waffle House. And while there, I asked her, what were some of your favorite things about this week, the last several days? And, how it's, we should just give small kids the box for Christmas. They don't actually need the toy that's in the box. Well, this was kind of similar. You know what one of her favorite parts about the days were? The crosswalks and the automated voice that would talk to you through the crosswalks. That was one of her favorite parts of the trip. I said, really? Really? I didn't need to take you to Kansas City for that. I think we could have just gone down to the closest large city to us, and you could have experienced something similar to that. Yes, she thought those guys, she called them guys, were so funny. I don't even remember now. Like, I think when you could walk, it was, just an automated voice that, I think maybe said walk. Or if you couldn't walk, it would say don't walk. I don't even remember now. If you live in Kansas City or have frequented, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that was one of her favorite parts of the trip. That. And then I just need to remind myself that the city is such a novelty for my kids that that really does make sense that it would be one of the highlights of her trip. So yes. The crosswalk guys were among her favorite aspects of the trip. I mean, one of obviously many, but it just cracked me up that this made her like top 10 list. While we were gone, she did what she called Michigan Minutes. They're all listed on my channel. You know, you don't need to like watch them in their entirety, but if you want to see her talking about them, she was really, really cute. Really got into them, especially after session. No, session 3. I think session 3, that one really cracked me up. That was a good one. And then the final session. Those are probably 2 of my favorite videos of hers. And I condensed them all then for her and put them in one like 6.5 minute-ish type thing. And I have a short, just a little 60-second short that's a very, very brief synopsis of her few days in Kansas City that you can watch and maybe get a smile and a chuckle out of that. So it was a really good trip. I am so thankful that in the end, despite all of the issues, all of the problems, it worked out. So, but now she's kind of going through some serious withdrawal because wrestling is really like truly like done. High school, college, it's all done till November. So she's kind of going through some serious harsh withdrawal, but track season has started. My oldest, I talked about last month, or yeah, I guess it was last month. Track season was beginning, but she was having some struggles with it. You know, she's not a phenomenal athlete. None of my kids are. I've talked about that extensively. And just afraid that she wouldn't actually get to really be doing any of her events like hurdles, which is her kind of her favorite thing. She does actually have some natural proclivity for hurdles. Well, in the end, I think she may end up doing hurdles far more than what she thought, because it turns out really almost nobody else is willing to do hurdles. And so tomorrow is the first track meet, and she's doing all of the hurdle events, which is both the 50 and 300 meter. So she may end up running more than what she ever thought she would. Daughter number 2, the one that just went to Kansas City for wrestling, she is doing track this year. She took last year off. She's back at it again this year. I don't know what she's going to end up doing. Probably like the 800, maybe. Daughter number 3 was going to be doing track, and I was kind of really looking forward to having all 3 of them finally doing track this year. I really wanted all 3 of them to do it last year when they were all in school together. And daughter number 3 actually was like the first one to sign up. She was ready to go, but just, I think she's been feeling very, very stressed. And in the end, just last week, actually, it was decided that maybe it would be better to not do track. So she is not doing track anymore. That's okay. I mean, she's still on student council. She's still plenty busy. And I think the opportunity for her to be able to come home and have some time at home without her sisters here is really probably more beneficial to her right now. So that's what's going on with that. My son has 2 more dance performances that are coming up. The first one is the first weekend in May, and that is an actual competition. So he's pretty excited about that. And then his recital, which is the same day as regionals for track. Now, I don't think my daughter will make regionals. My high schooler will make regionals. Like, there's nothing At this point in time, that leads me to believe that she would qualify for regionals. And I don't want to sound like I'm a pessimist or I don't believe in my kid. But I don't see her qualifying for regionals. But here's the kicker. Of course, you're not going to know any of that till a week before. And I got to order tickets to my son's show like May 1st. So the question is, how many tickets do I order for his recital? Knowing I won't be able to get any more. Like, it is a battle to get tickets for this dance recital. So I think I'm just going to order 2, one for my husband and me. And then if my daughter ends up competing for regionals, we'll figure it out at that point. My husband will get the tickets for the dance recital, and maybe a sister will want to go with, or somebody else. And I'll do the regional meet. I don't know. Anyway, that we still have some time, and I mean, it'll work out. Okay, I guess for now, that's probably going to have to be everything because this has started to get kind of lengthy, so I should probably cut it off at this point. Obviously, there is so much more that has happened during the interim, but this at least gets you a little bit more caught up with what's happening with me and my family. Okay, so thank you again for joining me. I don't mention it very often, but if you would, please consider liking and subscribing, sharing this video, leaving a comment. Any of that stuff really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. I know you've heard it before, blah, 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 but it really is appreciated when you do any of those things. So thank you in advance for that. Otherwise, as hopefully most of you are now quite familiar with, like I always say, please practice kindness. You don't know what someone's going through. You don't know what their day-to-day life is like. You don't know their personal struggles. Just like people don't know what's going on in your life and what issues and hurdles you may have in front of you at present. So just be kind. Have a little bit of extra patience and kindness with those around you, and it will go a very long way. And I hope that you are having an absolutely wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you again real soon.